I sat across from my daughter in the sunroom of my Madison Park home, the same room where her mother and I used to watch the sunrise over Lake Washington, and I said the word that would shatter her dream. 25,000. I'm David Chen. I'm 64 years old. I spent 38 years as an orthopedic surgeon in Seattle, putting people back together, fixing what was broken. I thought I'd taught my daughter the same principles: how to build something strong, how to know when something needed support and when it needed to stand on its own. I was wrong. Let me take you back to that phone call, 8 months before that conversation. It was a Thursday evening in February when Emily called, and I could hear the champagne in her voice before she even spoke. "Dad, I have the most amazing news," Brandon proposed. "We're engaged." I felt that rush of joy that comes when your only child finds happiness. Emily was 29, thriving as a marketing director at a tech company in Bellevue. She'd been dating Brandon Whitmore for 2 years. He came from money, real money. A Greenwich, Connecticut family with a name that appeared on museum wings and hospital buildings. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm so happy for you. The ring is incredible, Dad. 5 carats from Tiffany. Brandon flew us to New York for the proposal, top of the Rainbow Room." Her voice bubbled with excitement. "You have to see the video. He hired a photographer and everything." I was happy for her. Of course I was. But something in the extravagance made me uneasy. A small knot forming in my stomach that I couldn't quite name. "We want to get married in December. At the Breakers in Palm Beach." Can you believe it? The Breakers. The Breakers. I knew that name. Linda, my late wife, used to show me pictures from magazines. It was where presidents and celebrities got married, where a single night in the presidential suite cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. "That sounds beautiful, honey. When can I meet Brandon's parents?" "Actually, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Can I come over this weekend? Brandon and I want to show you something." That Saturday, Emily arrived with Brandon in his Porsche 911. Leased, I'd later learn, but at the time it looked impressive. All sleek lines and expensive rumble. Brandon was 32, tall, with that easy confidence that comes from never having to worry about money. He wore a Rolex that cost more than my first car. "Dr. Chen, it's an honor." Brandon's handshake was firm, practiced. "Emily's told me so much about you. Your career, your dedication to your patients. Really inspiring." We sat in my living room, the same room where Linda and I had raised Emily, where we'd had countless family dinners after she died 3 years ago from pancreatic cancer. Emily placed a thick, glossy brochure on the coffee table. "Dad, we want to show you what we're planning." She opened it to a spread of the Breakers, ocean views, marble columns, rooms that looked like palaces. "Isn't it magnificent?" I felt a chill, remembering another conversation, another glossy brochure. The knot in my stomach pulled tighter. "It's beautiful." I kept my voice neutral. Brandon leaned forward. "Dr. Chen, I know this might seem extravagant, but for Emily, for our families, we want to do this right. My family, we have certain expectations for weddings." I nodded slowly. "And what do those expectations cost?" Emily glanced at Brandon, and something passed between them. A look I'd seen before, in my surgical practice, when residents were about to give a patient bad news. "The venue alone is $180,000, Emily said. "That's for the ceremony, reception, rehearsal dinner. Then there's the photographer, videographer, flowers, band, dress." She pulled out her phone, showed me a spreadsheet. "We've budgeted everything carefully. The total is $450,000. The number hung in the air between us. $450,000. For one day. That's..." I paused, searching for words. "That's quite a budget." "We know," Brandon said quickly. "That's why we've been working on funding. My trust fund will cover our honeymoon and the first year's expenses. We've saved $20,000 between us. And," he glanced at Emily, "we were hoping you might consider helping with the wedding. How much help are you thinking?" Emily's voice went soft. "Dad, you know Mom always dreamed of seeing me get married. Remember how she used to talk about it? She'd want this to be special. The mention of Linda hit like a punch. Emily knew it would. Your mother wanted you to be happy. I kept my voice steady. But $450,000, Emily. That's more than many people earn in 10 years. We're not asking you to pay for all of it, Brandon said. My parents are contributing $75,000. That was generous of them, I thought, though I wondered why not more, given their wealth. So you're asking me for $250,000, Emily said. With your retirement savings, your pension from the hospital, we thought. She trailed off. I felt my heart rate spike. Emily, I saved $1.3 million over 38 years. That's my retirement. That's what pays for this house, for my health insurance, for the rest of my life. Dad, you're 64. You've got Social Security, your pension. You don't need all of it. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. When had she learned to see my life's work as excess, as something she was entitled to? Let me ask you something, I said carefully. What are Brandon's parents contributing as a percentage of their wealth? Brandon shifted uncomfortably. That's not really relevant. Whom or me? They have, Brandon cleared his throat, substantial assets. The $75,000 is what they felt was appropriate. Why not more? There was a long silence. Finally, Brandon spoke. They have certain views about financial responsibility. They believe young couples should fund their own lives. I see. And yet you're asking me for $250,000, which is roughly 20% of my life savings, while your parents, who you say are substantially wealthier, are contributing a fraction. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Dad, this isn't about math. This is about family. This is about showing up for me the way you always have. I've always shown up for you, Emily. I paid for your education. $180,000 for Stanford. I gave you a car for graduation. I helped with your first apartment security deposit. But this, I gestured at the brochure, this is different. How? How is it different? Because you don't need this. You want it. There's a difference. Brandon stood up. Dr. Chen, with all due respect, in my family, parents support their children's important life events. That's what families do. And in my family, I said, also standing, we live within our means. We don't spend $500,000 on a single day. Emily grabbed her purse, her hands shaking. So that's it? After everything, you're just going to say no? I'm saying, I chose my words carefully, that I will give you $25,000 toward your wedding. That's generous. That's more than your mother and I spent on our entire wedding adjusted for inflation. But $250,000? No. The word hung there. Final. Uncompromising. Emily's face went pale, then red. You're unbelievable. Mom would be ashamed of you. She left. Brandon followed. The Porsche roared away, and I sat in my living room, shaking. That was 6 months ago. For 4 weeks, Emily didn't call, didn't text. When she finally did, it was a 3-word message. Talk to lawyer. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Whitmore and Chen versus Chen. They were suing me for $500,000. The complaint was devastating to read. It claimed I had made verbal promises over the years about paying for Emily's wedding, that I had told her, repeatedly, that I wanted her to have the wedding of her dreams. That Linda, before she died, had explicitly told Emily that her wedding fund was secure, that my refusal had caused severe emotional distress, damaged her relationship with her fiancé's family, and caused her to lose deposits on vendors. It was all lies, or at least, distortions. I had told Emily I wanted her to be happy. What parent doesn't? But I'd never promised a specific amount, never told her to plan a $500,000 wedding. I called Patricia Hayes, an attorney who'd handled Linda's estate. When I read her the complaint, she was quiet for a long moment. David, I'm sorry. This is hard. Can they win? They can file anything. Winning is another story. Did you ever promise in writing to pay for the wedding? Never. Good. But this will be expensive. Legal fees could run $30,000, maybe more. Do it. I want to fight this. The next months were a nightmare I wouldn't wish on anyone. discovery requests, depositions, interrogatories. I had to turn over bank statements, emails, text messages going back years. Emily's lawyer was a sharp young man who treated me like I was a villain, a rich man refusing to help his grieving daughter honor her dead mother's wishes. The deposition was brutal. Emily sat across from me in a conference room and wouldn't meet my eyes. She'd lost weight, looked tired. For a moment, I wanted to just give in, to make it all go away. Dr. Chen, isn't it true you have approximately $1.3 million in retirement savings? Yes. And isn't it true you told your daughter, quote, I want you to have everything? I said I wanted her to be happy. That's different from everything. But you did establish a pattern of financial support? College, car, apartment deposit? Those were investments in her future, her education, her independence. So, you've established a pattern, then decided to break it at the most important moment of her life? Patricia objected. But I saw where this was going. Then came Emily's deposition. Patricia shared the transcript with me afterward. My daughter had told her friends, posted on Instagram, even told Brandon's parents that I was funding the wedding, before she'd even asked me. There were screenshots, posts that said, Dad's taking care of everything. December at the Breakers, comments from friends congratulating her on having such a generous father. Why were you so confident your father would pay? The lawyer asked Emily. Because he always has, she said. Because he told me after Mom died that he'd make sure I had everything I needed. Because that's what parents do. But Patricia's investigator found something else. In the 6 months before the engagement, Emily had spent $60,000. A Vera Wang dress she'd bought before the proposal, Cartier jewelry, a Tiffany bracelet that cost more than my monthly mortgage. She'd opened 3 new credit cards. And Brandon? He'd been fired from his private equity job 4 months before the proposal. He'd told Emily he was taking time to consult, but really, he was living on credit cards and his parents' allowance, an allowance they'd threatened to cut off unless he demonstrated financial responsibility. They weren't planning a wedding. They were planning a performance, a show to prove to Brandon's parents that they were worthy, and they expected me to fund it. Patricia filed a motion to dismiss. The judge denied it. We were going to trial. The night before court, I sat in my study, the same study where I'd helped Emily with her biology homework, where we'd talked about her dreams of working in marketing, of making a difference. There was a photo on my desk, Emily at her college graduation, her arm around me, both of us beaming. Linda had taken it, just months before her diagnosis. I picked up the photo, traced Emily's face. Linda, what would you want me to do? I remembered Linda's last weeks. She was so weak, could barely sit up. But one afternoon, when Emily was out, she'd grabbed my hand. David, promise me something, anything. Don't let her take you for granted. I see it sometimes, the way she expects things. She's young. She'll grow. But if she doesn't, you have to be strong enough to teach her. I promised. Don't let guilt make you weak. You're going to want to give her everything to make up for me not being there. Don't. The greatest gift you can give her is the strength to stand on her own. I'd promised. But had I kept that promise? Or had I made it worse by always saying yes, always cushioning every fall? Court day arrived cold and gray. Typical Seattle November. I wore my best suit, navy blue, the one Linda had picked out for hospital fundraisers. The courthouse was in downtown Seattle, imposing concrete and glass. Emily sat at the plaintiff's table with Brandon. She'd worn Linda's pearls. That felt like a betrayal worse than the lawsuit itself. The judge was Judge Andrea Morrison, a woman in her early 60s with silver hair and a reputation for cutting through nonsense. Emily's lawyer made his opening statement, painted me as a wealthy doctor hoarding his money while his only daughter, his grieving daughter, tried to honor her dead mother's memory with a proper wedding. Made it sound like I was some Scrooge McDuck swimming in gold while Emily starved. Then Patricia stood. Your Honor, this case is about entitlement. It's about a young woman who made a $450,000 promise to her fiancé's family before securing the funding, who spent $60,000 on wedding items before even asking her father, who is now suing because her father, a 4-year-old retired surgeon, won't hand over nearly 20% of his life savings for a single day. Over the next 3 days, we presented evidence. Bank statements showing my retirement savings weren't growing. They were what I'd live on for potentially 30 more years. Credit card statements showing Emily's spending. Instagram posts showing her announcing the wedding funding before asking. Testimony from Brandon's parents, who appeared by video. Mrs. Whitmore was elegant, cold. She testified that they'd warned Emily about Brandon's spending habits, his entitlement, that their $75,000 contribution was conditional on him, demonstrating he could hold a job, that they'd specifically told Emily not to plan a wedding she couldn't afford. "Why didn't you offer more?" Emily's lawyer asked. "Because Brandon needs to learn that money isn't a given, that it's earned." Mrs. Whitmore's voice was ice. "We made that mistake with his older brother. We won't repeat it." Then came my turn on the stand. "Dr. Chen, do you love your daughter? More than anything in this world. Do you want to see her happy?" "Of course." "Then why won't you help make her dream wedding happen?" I took a breath. "Because it's not a dream. It's a fantasy. And fantasies, built on other people's money, collapse. I want my daughter to be happy. Truly happy. Not performing happiness for Instagram while drowning in debt. That's convenient." The lawyer sneered. "You get to keep your money and call it a life lesson." Patricia objected. Sustained, but then Patricia had her turn. "Dr. Chen, in your 38 years in medicine, did you ever have a surgery go wrong?" "Yes. Several times." "What did you do?" "I learned from it. I studied what went wrong. I consulted with colleagues. I made sure I didn't make the same mistake twice." "Did anyone bail you out of those mistakes?" "No. I had to face them, fix them, live with them." "What would have happened if someone had?" "I thought about it. I wouldn't have become a better surgeon. I'd have become a dangerous one." After my testimony, Judge Morrison called both lawyers to the bench. They whispered for several minutes. Then she looked directly at Emily. "Miss Chen, please stand." Emily stood, her face pale, Brandon's hand on her back. "I've reviewed the evidence in this case carefully. I have some questions for you. Did you post on Instagram that your father was paying for the wedding before you asked him?" Emily's voice was barely audible. "Yes." "Did you spend $60,000 on wedding expenses before securing funding?" "Yes." "Did it occur to you that your father, at 64, needs his retirement savings for his own security?" Silence. "Did it occur to you that suing your father might permanently destroy your relationship?" Emily's eyes filled with tears. "Yes." "Then why did you do it?" Emily looked at Brandon. He stared straight ahead, jaw tight. "Because," Emily's voice broke, "because I thought he owed me. Because Mom died and I thought I deserved something to make up for that." Judge Morrison removed her glasses. "Miss Chen, I'm going to tell you something. Your father doesn't owe you a $450,000 wedding. He doesn't owe you anything beyond what he's already given you. A good childhood, an excellent education, a foundation to build your own life. What you do with that foundation is your choice and your responsibility." She put her glasses back on. "I'm dismissing this case. Furthermore, I'm ordering the plaintiffs to pay the defendant's legal fees, which amount to $32,000. This court is adjourned." The gavel came down. Emily collapsed into her chair. Brandon stood, walked out without looking back. I sat there, numb. I'd won. But my daughter wouldn't look at me. Patricia squeezed my shoulder. "You did the right thing, David." But had I? I'd won the case. But what had I lost? That night, Patricia told me something I didn't know. "David, there's something Linda set up. A trust, separate from your will. For Emily." I stared at her. "How much?" $400,000. It becomes accessible when Emily turns 35, with conditions. What conditions? She has to demonstrate financial stability, no bankruptcy, no lawsuits against family. And, Patricia paused, she has to reconcile with you. Linda wanted to provide for her, but she wanted to make sure Emily earned it by becoming the woman she hoped she'd be. I felt tears burn my eyes. Linda had known, had seen this coming. 18 months passed. I didn't hear from Emily except through lawyers managing the payment of legal fees. She paid in installments, $500 at a time. It felt petty, vindictive, but it was payment. Then one Sunday morning in May, my doorbell rang. Emily stood on my porch, holding a bouquet of gardenias, Linda's favorite flowers. She looked different, thinner, older, something harder in her eyes, but also something softer. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Linda and I had shared thousands of meals, where we'd celebrated Emily's college acceptance, where we'd cried together after Linda's diagnosis. "I'm sorry, Dad." 2 words that felt like they cost her everything to say. "Brandon and I are divorced. 6 months now. Turns out he was cheating with the wedding planner. Had been for months, even during the lawsuit." I felt a strange mix of vindication and sadness. "I'm sorry, Emily. Don't be." She laughed bitterly. "Best thing that ever happened to me. I lost my job, lost my apartment, lost most of my friends. I've been living with Aunt Karen in Portland, working at a non-profit for minimum wage." I poured us both coffee. "How are you doing?" "Honestly, better. I've been in therapy, really working through things, understanding things." "Like what?" "Like how I became someone I don't recognize. Someone who sued her own father. Someone who thought a wedding venue mattered more than the marriage. Someone who measured love in dollars." We sat in silence for a while. The morning sun came through the windows, warming the kitchen the way it used to when Linda was alive. "I know about the trust," Emily said quietly. "Aunt Karen told me. The one Mom set up." I nodded. "I have 3.5 years until I turn 35. I'm going to spend them proving that I've changed, that I'm someone Mom would be proud of, that I'm someone you can be proud of again." I reached across the table, took her hand. "I never stopped being proud of you, Emily. Even when I was angry, even when I was hurt. You're my daughter. You're all I have left of your mother." She squeezed my hand. "Can I come back? Not for money, just for this. Coffee, conversation, time." I felt something break open in my chest, something that had been locked tight for 18 months. I'd like that very much. Now, 6 months later, Emily comes over every Sunday for brunch. We make Linda's recipes, blueberry pancakes, and scrambled eggs. We talk about her work at the women's shelter in Portland, her therapy, her life. Sometimes we talk about Brandon, about the warning signs she missed. Sometimes we talk about Linda, keeping her memory alive. Last month, Emily brought someone to meet me. Sarah, a 2nd-grade teacher from Beaverton. When Emily looked at her, her eyes lit up in a way they never did with Brandon. "Mr. Chen," Sarah said nervously. "Emily's told me everything that happened. I just want you to know I'm not like that. I don't care about fancy things." I smiled. "Call me David. And I can see you're not like that. I can see it in the way my daughter looks at you." After they left, I sat in my study, looking at the photo of Emily's graduation. But now there was a new photo beside it, from last week. Emily and me at the Pike Place Market, both of us holding coffee cups, both of us grinning. She has her arm around me. We look happy. Sometimes being a good father means saying yes. Yes to love, to support, to being present. But sometimes being a good father means saying no. No to entitlement, no to enabling, no to making life so easy that your child never learns to be strong. I said no to my daughter 2 years ago. It cost me everything. Our relationship, my peace of mind, the certainty that I was doing the right thing. But that no led to this yes, to these Sunday mornings, to this second chance. Linda would be proud, not of what I did, but of what Emily became because of it. I'm David Chen. I'm 64 years old. I'm a retired orthopedic surgeon and a father. And sometimes the strongest structures are the ones that have to be torn down and rebuilt from the foundation up. My daughter and I, we're building something new, something honest, something that will last.